How are we going to measure directness? That's the first question. And the second question is going to be, how are we going to measure how potent their attacks are? So directness, well, let's say that we're starting in our own half, where that red dot is. That could be an Arsenal player, maybe Liverpool, maybe Manchester United. And the distance to goal, in this case, is about 80 yards. Okay, so just consider that you're starting there and you've got 80 yards to go to get to the goal line, which is your destination, if you can make it. There are many ways to get there, right? You could take quite a circuitous path like this, which might be 160 yards, or 2 times the distance to goal. Or you could go more directly, fewer passes, much fewer deviations from that straight line towards the goal, and you could get to a position within about 80 yards, or 1 times the distance to goal, from which it's viable to shoot. So you can see in the middle panel there, you've got a team that's not playing very directly. They pass twice the distance to goal. And in the right-hand panel, you've got a team that's going pretty directly, because they're only going 1 times the distance to goal. So this is going to be my measure of directness. How many times the distance to goal do you pass on your way to attack? Second thing, we've got to measure the potency of these attacks, the end product. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to use a standard expected goals model, a shot-based model. And this is what you heard about in the soccer analytics panel yesterday. And you may have been wondering, what is expected goals? What are expected goals? Are they singular or plural? Well, basically, they're just a way of using historical averages to predict how likely a generic shot from a certain situation and location is to score. So let's take a shot like number 1 here. This is a direct free kick. Okay, so the ball has been stopped because of a foul. Somebody's standing over the ball, ready to kick it directly towards the goal. 35 yards out, about a 30-degree angle. And you could estimate, for example, that there would be about an 8% chance of scoring. So maybe 1 in 12 of these shots would go in for a goal. So your expected goals from a shot like that in that same position and situation is 0.08. Pretty simple, right? That means in many, many repetitions of that same shot, across the league, many seasons, you're expecting on average 1 in 12 of them to go in. Well, take a different shot. This one, number 2, is a header from a corner. So somebody kicks the ball in from the corner, and there's someone in the middle of the box trying to head it. And it's 8 yards from goal. It's only a 5-degree angle. It might have a 15% chance of scoring, a much higher chance of scoring. Okay, so if you can get that situation and get your head on the ball in that situation, you might have a 0.15 chance of scoring worth 0.15 expected goals. Most of their possessions do end fairly quickly. This is true for most teams. But they get a decent number that are sort of in the sweet spot there where the chance of scoring is the highest. You can see the expected goals per possession peak at around 1.25, 1.5 times the distance from goal. So that's saying that if they just go a little bit further than the initial distance to goal, that's when their chance of scoring is highest. And you can see the gray bars underneath there showing how frequently they're able to do that. So we can tell you one thing right now. You do have to pass towards the goal, right? If you're starting from 0, if you go 0 times the distance from goal, chances of scoring are pretty low. But as you get higher and higher, this is a smooth curve, so each point is not actual data, but a smooth curve. As you go further and further, the chance of scoring rises. But once you go past about 1.5 times the distance to goal, for Leicester, the chance of scoring falls. The more they pass, the less likely it is that they're going to score. So that tells you that when Leicester gets involved in build-up play, they start passing the ball back and forth the way Manchester City does or Arsenal does, they're not going to score. They have to be fast. They have to be direct. That's when they're potent. So this tells you something very specific about their style and attack starting from deep. The order matters, because if you can isolate the people who are starting the attacks and disrupt them, then the ball never gets to the center forward. It never gets to the winger. So you're looking for the people at the beginning. Cut that thing off before it gets any further. Well, if we look at the players who are involved in the first or second pass or dribble of each of Leicester's attacks from deep, this is what it looks like. Danny Drinkwater, number 1, he's their central midfielder. He is the crux of many of their attacks. Number 2 is Kasper Schmeichel, who's their goalkeeper, because he does a lot of long kicks out of his area. He kicks the ball straight up, looking for those fast forwards and wingers. Number 3 is N'Golo Kanté. He's another one of their central midfielders, more of a holding midfield player. And then after that, you get a couple more. But you can see that Drinkwater and Kanté, these two guys who play in the center of the field, are really important here. They are the guys who are starting the majority, not the majority, but the biggest plurality of these attacks.